that might not be so easy. You know Cookie and that doll.
How much do you know about the history of Degrassi? Where do you fall between, is that the one with Drake in it? And I'm actually president of the Stephanie K fan club, thank you very much. Well, today we're going to go through the 4 original films that later became what we now know as the first episodes of Degrassi. After Ida Makes a Movie, CBC continued to pick up one short film each year up until 1982. They gave us Cookie Goes to Hospital, Irene Moves In, and Noel Buys a Suit. And if you haven't seen them before, it's totally okay, because we're about to sit back, crack open our textbooks, and learn a little bit about the history of Degrassi.
You're crazy.
Cookie Goes to Hospital brings back the original kids from Ida Makes a Movie, except this time we're going to focus on Cookie, who gets sick and has to go to the hospital for a surgery. But once she's there, she realizes she doesn't have her favorite doll. So Ida works together with their new friend Noel to make sure they get it to her. Now, let's watch the opening scene about their after-school club and get a feel for the second episode of Degrassi.
What about...
You know the rules. You have to live between 94 and 100 Degrassi. And your name has to start with an I-C or an N.
But she lives with me, and I live at 100.
But does her name start with an I, C, or an N?
No, but...
You can't change the rules. I'm the president, and I say no dolls. We need a name for our club.
How about the Degrassi Street Club?
I think just from that opening scene, you can tell that the production quality has improved quite a bit from the first episode we saw. The shot lengths are more engaging, the actors seem more comfortable, and there's no errors slipping through this time. And that's because not only has the budget improved, but the amount of people working on the project has improved as well. There's now production managers, sound and music departments, camera assistants. When Ida Makes a Movie only gave credit to Linda, Kit, and the writer Amy Jo. But now there's a notable addition to the crew. Philip Earnshaw is now credited for his cinematography, and he goes on to work on every iteration of the series up until Degrassi Next Class in 2017. There's also now a theme sequence created by Louis Mann and his wife Wendy Watson, and a few other co-creators as well. Let's take a minute to listen and watch the first few establishing shots. Now, this is our first inclination of world building. We saw an establishing shot with our location, with the Degrassi Street sign and the Degrassi grocery store. And this is important because in Ida Makes a Movie, the word Degrassi doesn't actually come up at all. But now we're really cementing into the idea that Degrassi is a community. Now, let's get a little more into the intent of the story. Ida Makes a Movie was about embracing a child's creativity and the importance of being honest. Cookie Goes to Hospital really emphasizes that hospitals are a safe space, and fear is an okay emotion to have. Let's watch a scene where these themes are exemplified.
But now I want to show you a few things, because time is really short, okay? Now, when you wake up from the operation, you'll see that you have a bandage on your tummy, right about there. Do you want to put it on? Okay, I'll do it. There, see? Do you know what this is?
A needle?
Mm-hmm. How would you like to give Nancy a needle? Do you think she's going to say anything when she gets her needle?
She's going to say ouch.
Okay. Ouch!
It's over. It doesn't hurt so bad.
Good. Now, remember I told you that you go to sleep?
The nurse also goes on to tell Cookie that it's okay if she cries when she gets her needle. It's a very normal reaction. And I think this scene is so important, and it really reflects on Degrassi's core values, that the kids are the most important part of the story, and their problems should be handled with respect. I can only imagine in real life that some kids go to a hospital with a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety, but very little information, because adults just think they might not be old enough to understand. A fun behind-the-scenes fact is that Cookie's nurse is played by Susan Acorn, and she goes on to work behind the scenes at Degrassi. It's mostly a script supervisor and in the continuity department. But for now, she's doing a great job playing a compassionate children's nurse. In a later scene, she comforts Ida as she asks why Cookie looks so pale. And we'll see the effects of that respectful conversation in this moment with Ida and Noel in their clubhouse.
Here, sign this so we can mail it.
That's nice. I hope your appendix gets better soon. That's stupid.
Why?
Because it's Cookie who's going to get better soon. Her appendix is gone. They took it out.
Who told you all this stuff?
Cookie's nurse. A nice one.
And later, when we see Cookie playing with her doll.
Your blood pressure's high. You have to have a shot. It's okay. It won't hurt.
I think all of these moments really show the value of focusing on storytelling for a younger audience. A parent could easily use this episode to spark a conversation. Now, let's go on to Irene Moves In, which again came out a full year later and still focuses on the kids from Degrassi Street. Except this time, we're tackling racism from an elementary school perspective. Irene, our first Asian character, has just moved on to Degrassi Street, and Cookie can't wait to make friends with her. But Ida, just by one look, has decided that she already does not like Irene. Let's listen to Ida explain why.
Have you met Irene from across the street yet?
No.
She seems like a nice girl.
I don't think she's my type.
How do you know you haven't met her yet?
I can tell by looks.
Do you mean that by a single glance you're able to sum up a person's whole personality?
That's right.
I wouldn't trust first impressions like that. It's not very fair. I think you should give her a chance.
When Irene and Ida do meet, Cookie asks if Irene can join their club. Ida immediately says no and explains the rules to join. Irene points out that her name starts with an I and she lives between 94 and 100 Degrassi Street, but Ida still comes up with an excuse. She says Irene hasn't lived here long enough. Ida decides to bully Irene by dressing up as Bigfoot and making Irene get scared. Here's the aftermath of that scene.
I knew it wasn't Bigfoot all along.
Why'd you scream then? When Cookie screamed, it scared me. I thought it was Bigfoot and he was going to eat me.
Irene wouldn't have to worry about that.
Why?
Bigfoot wouldn't eat you anyway, 'cause you stink.
Very funny. You think you can hurt me, but you can't. I'll never like you, never.
See if I care!
That wasn't nice, Ida.
But she deserved it. She thinks she's so smart. She thinks she can just move in here and take over.
You could at least be nice to her.
Why should I?
Because she's a human being just like you and me.
I don't care what she is. I don't like her. And if you were my friend, you wouldn't like her either.
Then I guess I'm not your friend.
Bravo, Cookie. I think she absolutely kills it in this scene. I'm so proud of her. And I really love the way that Degrassi handled this conversation between Cookie and Ida, because it goes to show you that you don't always learn life lessons from adults. Sometimes you learn life lessons from kids who are your own age on the playground. So the episode does go on and they go through more fights, and at the very end they're forced into a situation where they have to make up. But personally, I don't think the scene where they make up is as strong as any of the other moments that are very racially charged and really, really heavy. Like, I would have liked to see Ida take more responsibility for her actions, but instead the two of them just kind of laugh it off. But ultimately, I am glad to see the show tackled a heavy issue. The jump from an episode about being honest to the fear of a hospital to racism is a pretty big leap in a show for 8-year-olds, I gotta be honest. The next short film is Noel Buys a Suit, which again comes out another full year later. Ida plays a secondary character, but ultimately the story focuses around Noel. His dad's getting married, and he thinks his new stepmom is being too controlling. The episode follows Noel as he buys a suit for the wedding and explores his emotions around his changing family. This topic is very important, but I really want to focus on the behind the scenes of Noel Buys a Suit because we're going to meet a lot of interesting actors. Again, we see Louis Mann, who we know is the composer of the Degrassi theme music. He makes another cameo as the family friend trying to get Noel's dad to his wedding. Noel's dad is played by R.D. Reed, and he's a very established actor with over 100 acting credits, including Lars and the Real Girl and the Dawn of the Dead. This guy's working. John Bertram plays the salesman who helps Noel pick out a suit, and he continues on behind the scenes as a writer, director, but most importantly, he will become the unseen voice of Principal Lawrence in Degrassi Junior High.
On school property again, Mr. Kobolowski. You are going to regret it. Is that clear?
We also now have a film editing credit by Yan Moore, who primarily goes on to be a writer for the Degrassi Classic series and into the beginning of The Next Generation. But here's an actor you'll definitely recognize. This is Stacey Mistysyn, who goes on to play Caitlin Ryan up until Degrassi: The Next Generation. She begins her time on the show as Noel's sister with the name Lisa Kennard. Here's her very first scene in the history of Degrassi.
All right.
Knock, knock.
Who's there? Who's there?
Amos,
Amos who?
a mosquito.
That's a good one.
And with that, we've reached the end of the episode where Noel decides to give his new mom a chance. But my favorite part is in the end credits that follow. The entire film is called Noel Buys a Suit. He spends the entire time looking for a suit. Now, Playing with Time gave credit to Moores because they provided the filming location, but they did not provide the suit. And I think that is so funny. So now we've reached the end. We explored the first 4 short films that became the first episodes of the Kids of Degrassi Street. So what have they done? They've given a sense of world building around Degrassi Street. Playing with Time's production team has now grown, and Degrassi is now cementing the foundation of storytelling for children through film. Next, we're going to look at when CBC orders 4 episodes of Degrassi at one time. But for now, remember this: get your needles, don't be racist, and be nice to your mom.